More on all of this, let's bring in Missouri Republican Senator Eric Schmitt, who sits on the Senate Armed Services Committee. Senator, thanks very much for being here this morning. Good to have you here.
Great to be with you again, Maria.
So let's get to what's going on in terms of the China-U.S. relationship. Can you do anything in your role on the Senate in terms of the most favored trade status? And what is your reaction to the U.S.'s response to China's provocations?
Well, I think we need to reevaluate all those relationships. We're not having fair trade at all with China. And so that everything needs to be on the table. There's no doubt about that. But you just heard the clip from Joe Biden about sending a message. Look, the message right now is China is our chief adversary. There's no doubt about that. They have plans for world domination. And we got to take that seriously. Absolutely seriously, like seriously as a heart attack, seriously. And we're not doing that right now from the Biden administration. I mean, China's built islands in the South China Sea, and it's not for people in Beijing to go on vacation. They've militarized these islands. They have anti-ship weapon systems. They have anti-aircraft weapon systems on those islands now, not only to disrupt trade, but for military purposes. On top of that, now you had a Chinese spy balloon traverse across the continental United States, including over my home state of Missouri, over Whiteman Air Force Base, home of the B-2 stealth bomber, over St. Louis, where you have the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency. I mean, they are not messing around. They're playing for keeps. And Maria, not only were they gathering important intelligence on our military installations, they were gathering important intelligence on Joe Biden, what he would do, how quickly he would do it, and he failed on every front. You've got that on the heels of the Afghanistan withdrawal, where we lost servicemen, tens of billions of dollars worth of equipment. He cares not at all about the porous, open southern border, the sovereignty of our own border. And now you have our airspace being violated by the Chinese, our very sovereignty. So the Biden administration is not taking it seriously. We need to take it seriously. They are a chief threat, and we need to treat them like that.
I want to get your take on the Ohio train derailment response as well. For 2 weeks, FEMA said they were not going to help Ohio because the damages were not eligible, which was just mind-boggling. You are on the Commerce Committee. What kind of response should the country be having to the potential cancerous chemicals that were dispersed? And how worried are you that that goes into other states beyond Ohio?
Well, I think there's a complete disconnect here. When you hear the president talking about sending American tax dollars to Ukraine to help pay for their pensions, and he does nothing about the millions of people who stream across our southern border, distributing fentanyl, human trafficking, and crime across the country, it is completely out of touch to not address this. And Pete Buttigieg was a no-show this week in our committee to talk about FAA problems they had in January with the travel system across the country. He's been a no-show in Ohio. And so the American people are right to be upset about this. They demand answers. They demand a presence by this administration to know that they're going to take care of these issues. But I think it's part and parcel. A lot of these folks who claim to be environmentalists don't care much about the environment. They care about climate alarmism to scare people so they can gather more and more power and control. That's what this is about. But again, the Biden administration and Pete Buttigieg specifically has absolutely failed on this Ohio environmental disaster.
Yeah, it's really worrisome, actually. Meanwhile, the administration is pushing new candidates in terms of these nominees, and you already had a lawsuit when you were Attorney General against Big Tech for going along with all of this. Give us your sense of Gigi Sohn, what you learned in terms of the hearings, as well the fact that Christine Wilson left the FTC because of a similar lawlessness that she noted.
Well, Gigi Sohn should not be anywhere near the FCC. The Biden administration now for the third time is pushing her as a commissioner. That's a very important commission that has broad authority. And what she's proven is that she's in the pocket of big tech, some of the largest companies in the history of the world who have worked with this Biden administration to suppress free speech. She's not supportive of free expression in the First Amendment. And then she also views her role as a bureaucrat of pushing an agenda that Congress has never approved. I mean, I think this is a big issue with the administrative state. They're taking on powers and duties that they're not supposed to have, and something that I'm going to continue to push back on in the United States Senate to get back to the system of self-government, because when you elect people, you can send them there, send them home, send them back. You can't do anything about these unelected bureaucrats. And out of 300+ million people, I just can't believe that the Biden administration settled on this nominee.
Well, I mean, what is your assessment of the administration? You're now a senator after working really in a leadership position as the Attorney General in Missouri, tackling things like the wide open border, tackling the big tech issues. You sued the administration many times. How do you see it now in your new role?
That there aren't a lot of people in Washington who are serious about these problems that the American people care about. I mean, the American people, a family right now is paying $10,000 more a year than they were 2 years ago for groceries, for gas, for payments, everything. And Washington's completely out of touch with how people are dealing with these issues at home. And they're nominating people to these important positions, and they're talking about how they're going to take on, you know, a climate emergency and sending folks to DEI training. It's just out of step with what people care about in their real lives, these kitchen table issues. And so I think it's incumbent upon Republicans to move an agenda forward that makes us energy dominant, that secures our border, that puts America first as far as our, you know, foreign policy and our national security. You don't see that a lot in Washington, but we got a lot of work to do.
All right, we will leave it there and be watching your work. Senator, thank you. Republican Senator Eric Schmitt from Missouri, thank you.